Good evening and welcome to the podcast. Listen, this is your first time with us. Please hit that like button, hit that notification bell so that you are notified every time we go live on this channel. Tonight, we're going to talk about a case that has been dominating the headlines. And I didn't jump on this case right when it came out because I wanted to do some real research in it, because this is something that's near and dear to my heart, right? Because I love politics and I love the business of politics. And this is one of them cases that a lot of the naysayers, people who say, man, I don't want to deal with politics because it's all corrupt. This is one of them cases where those people can point to and say, hey, look, this is why overall feeling for public officials and government is at an all-time low because of corruption. Now, this case right here is involving these three gentlemen right here who are city councilmen for the second largest city in the state of South Carolina, which is North Charleston, South Carolina. And we're going to do a little deep dive on this thing. Now, the individuals involved in this, who you're looking at on the screen here, and I'm going to go between the different ones, but this is involving three city councilmen by the name of Jerome Hayward, Sandino Moses, and Mike Brown. Okay. And they're charged alongside five other people who we'll get into some of, what these people did and what they're accused of. Okay. In some of the more, just to be a little bit more specific. Now, this guy right here seems to be the ringleader right here, Mr. Jerome. His name is Jerome Hayward, right? And Jerome Hayward is, you see some of the charges that he just recently pled guilty the other day in federal court. When I get into the specifics of what he did, you'll see why he had no choice but to plead guilty. Like these guys weren't the most sophisticated criminals, and my bigger question is, what does this do for the folks in North Charleston? What does this do for that? Okay, and so you can see here some of the charges allegedly. Well, not allegedly. This stuff is not alleged anymore because he's pled guilty to it. But he received $40,000 in kickbacks from two different nonprofit organizations in exchange for directing portion of a $1.3 million gun violence reduction grant to them. Okay, now that's the really sick side of it, is that if you know anything about Charleston, North Charleston to be exact, gun violence is a huge problem. And to think that, you had these politicians who had their pockets with it. We'll get into the specifics of what these schemes were that these guys got into here. But again, this is Mr. Jerome Hayward. Okay, and the next guy up is this gentleman right here, who is Mr. Mike Brown. And Mr. Mike Brown is accused of bribes to facilitate a rezoning of land along Ashley River for a boat manufacturing company. Recorded conversations revealed Brown expressing frustration over delays in receiving payment, citing personal financial obligations. The rezoning proposal was ultimately rejected. So he put himself in a position to enrich himself. And again, we're going to get into the specifics of the scheme that these people got involved in. And before long, and then the third of these three gentlemen, these three city councilmen, is this man right here. Okay. And you notice he's only charged with one felony, which is misprision, lying to the federal authorities. And then we're going to get into the specifics of what it is he lied about and why it is he lied. Again, two of these gentlemen have already pled guilty in federal court. There's one of them, plus along with some of the other folks who pled guilty. Guilty pleas for Hayward and Moses, who were indicted on those guys pled guilty. Hayward and Moses also resigned from the city council. And the third guy, who I just had up there, I think. Yeah, that's Sandino Moses. This is this guy, his name. And again, he accepted some money to support a rezoning initiative, and later he returned that money, and he was charged with lying to federal investigators about his knowledge of his colleagues' involvement in the scheme. Okay, both Hayward and Moses, which is this guy right here, and the first guy that I showed you right here, they resigned, and the other gentleman who did not resign, who did not plead guilty yet, right here, Mike Brown, was removed by Governor McMaster from his position at North Charleston City Council. All right, so let's get into a little bit more detail into what it is that these gentlemen did. All right, and we're going to get into these schemes that they got into. And the first one I'm going to talk about is involving this man right here, which Hayward, again, he's the ringleader and he's involved in most of it. You know, he was like the boss, for lack of a better term. All right, federal documents show that Hayward approached a North Charleston businessman in October 2023 who had been advocating for certain changes in the city that would benefit his operations. So basically, this businessman was trying to get some rezoning done, something changed in his favor, in his business favor, so he could, and it would benefit him. Hayward asked the businessman for financial support for his re-election campaign, and the man lawfully donated to Hayward and 4 other candidates' campaign. So it won't be hard to figure out who that person is. Just got to go back and find the records of Hayward's campaign donations. Soon after Hayward met with the businessman in person, he expressed his willingness to consult and lobby for the changes the man sought. Hayward runs J.S. Hayward Consulting LLC outside of his city council duties. That should be a conflict of interest right there. So he runs a consulting firm, and he's soliciting the businessman, letting them know that, hey, listen, this company that I run could, help you get this done. Following the meeting, Hayward assistant emailed the businessman a consulting agreement, slick, stating that the businessman must pay a $10,000 fee up front and a $7,500 monthly for 12 months in exchange for Hayward's lobbying and consulting services, documents explain. So let's see what that number is right there. That is, I think we came up with a number today. So he told him, he basically sent the man, not basically, but he sent the man an invoice saying that if you want my help in getting these changes brought about, you hire my consulting firm to help you make this happen, right? And so he's saying to the businessman, you need to give me $10,000 up front. Okay. It's 10 smacks up front. I'm looking for a calculator, guys, unless somebody's over there can help me out with this math here a little faster. So you're talking about 10 grand up front. And $7,500 times 12. $100,000. So that's what he wanted to be helped. Also in the agreement, Hayward agreed to lobby and consult with the state and local governments on behalf of the businessman. So he's going to use his influence as a politician to help this businessman. After receiving the agreement, the businessman reported the interaction to the FBI and agreed to cooperate with the investigators, which included the agency recording telephone calls and in-person meetings between the man and Hayward. Hayward, who is on the screen right now, North Charleston City Councilman. Former North Charleston City Councilman, I should say. He was trying to extort the man for $100,000. So the man went to the FBI and using FBI funds, the businessman transferred money into Hayward's on 2 separate occasions. The businessman met with Hayward after notifying the FBI. That's the part I missed. I'm sorry. In the meeting, Hayward assured the man that he had significant influence and control over fellow city council members and would be able to push through the changes. Using the FBI's funds, the businessman transferred money to Hayward on 2 separate occasions. On March 11th, 2024, the man transferred $15,000 via wire transfer, consisting of the $10,000 upfront and a $5,000 monthly fee, which was negotiated, officials explained, meaning that, because remember, Hayward said he wanted $75,000, and so they knocked off $2,500. And the monthly payment was agreed at $5,000. On April 5th, 2024, in April 5th, 2024, the man transferred an additional $5,000 to Hayward. During this time, Hayward participated in numerous meetings and calls with North Charleston City employees, pushing for the changes the businessman sought, which included rezoning the businessman property, issuing business license, and potential property swaps. While advocating for the businessman, While advocating for the businessman wants, Hayward never disclosed his deal with the businessman to his personal financial interest. In scheme number 2, in 2023, Charleston County Parks and Recreation Commission granted Sea Fox Boats a 90-year lease that would allow Sea Fox to build a boat manufacturing facility, clean up the property, and pay for a 46-acre public park at the Baker Hospital site. North Charleston City Council rezoned the property in April 2023, halting Sea Fox's plans. Sea Fox then asked the city council to reconsider the rezoning in February 2024. The company anticipated public opposition to their plans and hired consultants and lobbyists to push their case. One of the consultants, identified as Hicks, agreed to pay Hayward and Brown kickbacks from the consulting fees in exchange for their influence on council. The FBI intercepted wiretaps, wire and electronic communications over Hayward's phone. The FBI learned that Hicks paid both Hayward and Brown before an April 18th Public Safety Committee meeting. Despite pressuring members to pass the rezoning, Sea Fox could not gain sufficient support, and the company withdrew the rezoning application. This is how it's going down in North Charleston. So now let's talk about scheme number 3. The North Charleston Gun Violence Reduction Grant Program was approved. The North Charleston Gun Violence Reduction Grant Program was approved in December 2022. It awarded $100,000 to a dozen local nonprofit organizations that work to combat gun violence in the community, totaling $1.2 million. One of the nonprofits that received the funds was formed by Hayward's personal assistant, Michelle Stent Hilton, and the other by Donovan Laval Moulton, who is known to Hayward. Stenton, Hilton, and Moulton agreed to pay Hayward 20% kickback on money they received in exchange for his support. The group used Lorenzo Financial, run by Rose Lorenzo, to launder the money. Hayward received $40,000 in kickback from the scheme. Overall, Hayward faces a maximum term of imprisonment of 20 years, a fine of $500,000, and a term of supervised release of 3 years, the Department of Justice said. He has agreed to cooperate with authorities, and that's involved Hayward. Mike Brown is charged with conspiracy to commit bribery, and wire fraud for his role in a scheme involving rezoning the former Baker Hospital site. Brown is set to be arraigned in March for the charges against him. Governor Henry McMaster's office has suspended Brown from his position since he has not resigned. According to a federal indictment, Brown conspired with fellow Councilman Hayward to receive kickbacks from a consultant identified as Hicks, hired by Seafox Boats to push the rezoning of the Baker Hospital site so Seafox could proceed with building a boat manufacturing facility at the site despite heavy public opposition. On April 16th, the FBI received authorization to tap Hayward's phone. In one conversation recorded with Brown, Brown is heard saying, "SHIT, this free money." About the money the men expected to receive from Hicks in exchange for their support on the rezoning. The indictments state that Brown planned to use the money to help his son with their wedding expenses. Hicks paid him at least $1,000 in cash before April 18th public safety meeting. He faces a maximum term of imprisonment of 20 years, a $250,000 fine, a term of 3 years supervised release. The Department of Justice said Sandino Moss has agreed to plead guilty on one count of misprision. It looks like misprison, but that's not prison. Let's see, let me just get him up on the screen here. That word right there. But what it essentially means is lying to the police, lying to federal authorities. And so Sandino Moss has agreed to plead guilty to one count of a felony, meaning he concealed his knowledge of a federal crime. Moses turned in a letter of resignation Wednesday. While Hayward and Brown were scheming to rezone the Baker Hospital site, they used their influence to attempt to persuade fellow council members to approve the rezoning vote. Now look how they set this guy here, or allegedly set him up. During the April 18th public safety meeting, Moses motioned to the table a vote on the first reading of rezoning the hospital site, which caused a 30-day delay in considering the rezoning application. Following the vote, the first reading was rescheduled to be taken up at a meeting scheduled for May 16th, 2024. On April 26th, 2024, a businessman convened a meeting with Fields, Hicks, and several other Seafox employees at a Seafox headquarters downtown Charleston to create a plan to win support for the Seafox rezoning proposal. That meeting was recorded and handed over to the FBI. In it, Hicks and Fields state that gaining Moses's support for the rezoning was key to the success for the May 16th rezoning. Fields then scheduled meetings with Moses to discuss the Seafox proposal. During the meeting, Moses told Fields he wanted to start a consulting career. I guess that's the thing. When you get into them positions, you can't take money from people directly, so you start a consulting firm, and then, that's where it gets murky at. Fields then asked Moses if he would be interested in helping him with a project that involved an effort to help local churches facing property dispute. Federal documents state. Moses said yes, and Fields handed him $200 in cash and said he would give him details later. the pair arranged another meeting during which Fields paid Moses another $250 in cash. Moses pressed for more details about the consulting project previously discussed, but Fields offered no further information. The FBI recorded a later conversation between Moses and Hayward in which Moses said if Fields wanted his support for the rezone, Fields needed to make something happen and give me some money for my district, documents explain. So that's key. He said he needed to make something happen and give me some money for my district. You better be glad he put that my district part in there, because his charges would have been a little bit more. Hayward then counseled Moses that, okay. So Hayward, again, the bald head guy, the big OG, he counseled Moses that asking outright for something in exchange for a vote was illegal, and that he should instead vote in favor of C. Fox's proposal. After the conversation, which Moses met with Fields once again and returned the cash that he gave him, recognizing it was a bribe. So yeah, they went at Buddy kind of backhanded, not kind of, but they went at him very backhandedly. And Moses never notified authorities about the situation. So I guess Moses said quiet is kept. About a month later, the FBI agent approached Fields asking if he knew of payments made on behalf of C. Fox for the rezoning application. Fields said no, then sent Moses a message in an attempt to cover up the bribe payments. Moses, who I'm talking about now, he faces a maximum term of imprisonment of 3 years, $250,000 fine, and a maximum term of supervised release of 1 year. So Moses is taking that deal and running with it. Okay, and here's what the mayor of North Charleston's response was to all of this up to this point, I guess. North Charleston's Mayor Reggie Burgess released a statement shortly after Wednesday's announcement, extended his gratitude to the FBI and State Law Enforcement Division for their thorough and diligent work throughout the investigation. From the onset, the city was fully cooperated. The city has fully cooperated with this inquiry, embracing the opportunity to ensure the continued trust and confidence of our community. Transparency and accountability remain core principles of this administration, and we welcomed this review as a necessary step to uphold those standards, said Burgess. We appreciate the community's patience and support during this process and assure you that our focus remains and always on building a safer and brighter future for North Charleston. So, yeah, this is a very interesting story, and again, brings up a lot of questions about public trust and politicians. And to me, it highlights how easy it is to get sucked into that position of power, get sucked up by that position of power if you don't watch yourself. You know what I mean? The one or two carefully placed campaign contributions or carefully placed donations could really put you in a pickle if you're a new politician, not understanding the long game that some of these people play. You know what I mean? So main thing is don't get caught up by greed if that's your motivation for doing that. if you're getting into politics to make money, there's a very good chance you're going to end up behind bars somewhere, like these three gentlemen right here. So, don't know, man. Y'all get in the comment section. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you know. Again, I'm going to be on this a little bit more because I have some really good inside information, especially about some of those guys who were making those 501c and getting paid, on the backs of the gun violence. You know what I mean? Literally taking advantage of a situation. I mean, literally taking advantage of a situation. So again, get in the comment section. Tell me what you think. Does this erode your faith in public officials' ability to do the right thing when they got the power?